First up, Miles Lukas versus me. Miles is a David Camarillo black belt. I get some lapel control and then pick up a leg, and he didn't try to fight that too hard. Miles is a butterfly guard player, and I like to compress the butterfly in order to pass. Then I can pin a knee and sprawl, but he knows what's up. Miles brings his knee to the center line, so I see an opportunity to maybe fold him, and he hits a beautiful shin sweep. And here's a good tip for you. Let's look at this again. Whenever you get swept, don't just be a spectator. Instead, it's better to add to the momentum so that you land a little farther than what they intended, giving you some separation. And also, when you land, try to land in a connected way so you can immediately begin moving yourself to a better position. And that's what I do here. I land on the balls of my feet, which allows me to then recover to a better defensive posture. And then I use that to get to half guard. The omoplata is an obvious attack from here because Miles is overhooking my leg, but he has collar control, which means I'm not going to be able to rotate into that position. So instead, I'm going to go toward the problem and scoop under his legs, and that's what's going to make him light so I can come up. Miles immediately goes for a butterfly sweep right here. So I sprawl and stay real heavy, and I'm trying to just get past his legs, but he frames me out, and he recovers butterfly guard. He loves that guard. Miles tips me, but I keep my shin and my legs really engaged, and I maintain some postural control so that I can pivot and come up. I immediately scoop under his armpit and get the far lapel. And that's what's going to give me some postural control over him and give me the ability to maybe set up a choke if the opportunity presents. I'm just trying to stay heavy here and nullify his butterfly guard by keeping him kind of compressed and see if I can get past it. I think I'm going to try to get to half guard instead here. Yep, I sprawl and then I shoot in to get half guard. And this is kind of interesting. So check this out. I'm going to turn kind of perpendicular. I've got collar control with one hand. I'm going to scoop through his legs with the other hand and begin prying that leg open while I keep his head in place so he can't recover. And now I can step through and advance my position to side control. And I think I immediately scoop my right arm under his armpit in order to set up a bread cutter choke, but he's holding my triceps. He knows what's up. Miles immediately begins windshield wipering his legs to generate momentum to get out from north-south, and he posts on my hips. That's a real common way to recover. You can either back roll out or you can just pivot out. I think he tries to back roll out, but I'm still a little heavy on him. Otherwise, he might have been able to take my back to butterfly guard, but he drives forward and puts me on my back. Not sure what we're joking about here, but I keep my feet engaged. I got my hand in the collar for a possible choke, but since he's overhooking, I opt to switch to the omoplata. He rolls out. I try to maintain triceps control. Normally, I try to come up when someone rolls out of an omoplata, but I'm just coming back from an injury, so my decision-making is a little bit slow. Apparently, we're just talking and bantering through this whole roll. Miles is kind of a jovial guy who likes to have fun. He drops me onto my back. I immediately try to hit a telephone arm lock and get that arm stretched out, but Miles is hip to it and he gets enough of a bend in his arm to deny it. I grab the gi tail in order to keep his posture down so I can maybe set up the omoplata again, but he postures out, pulls that arm out. He weaves that arm through and he gets my right arm. And this is a little dangerous because he's trying to get to side control now. The entire battle is my right elbow. I can't let him get under that elbow. Otherwise, he will fully establish side control. So instead, I'm going to keep my elbows in. I'm going to scoop through. Maybe I can sneak out from the backside. But Miles is pinning my arm with his shin, and I'm in a little bit of danger here. It's kind of a knee on belly with my arm stuck. And it looks like he's going to try to set up a far side armbar. And I know he needs to pivot around, but I'm going to keep control over his leg right there. Notice that I keep under his leg, and then I scoop through with the arm that he's attacking, keep it under the leg so that I can pivot myself, and there's no more armbar at this point. But I am still in side control. I threaten a little bit of an armbar there, and he starts threatening a bread cutter choke, which I deny. So he switches more to north-south. I'm being a little bit passive here, which I attribute to my lack of conditioning after a 3-month hiatus. Black belt, like Miles, is going to make you work every minute. And if you don't have that extra gear, it's hard to stay ahead. He's setting a bread cutter. He has a really nice crucifix setup from the bread cutter, and I'm aware of that. So I'm going to try to cut an angle there and deny it. I managed to frame him out here and get myself to butterfly guard. He flattens me out, but he's overhooking, and I've got triceps control. I'm going to try to get collar control to keep the posture down so I can maybe threaten another omoplata right here, but he is going to roll out really aggressively. He's very good at that move, and I don't have the extra gear I need to right now to follow. I'm thinking about playing a little bit of lasso guard here, maybe getting a collar choke. The clock is running down, and so I'm just trying to find something here at the end of the round. You can see Miles has a bloody elbow. I'm not sure what that's from, but abrasions happen. And that's it. Thank you, Miles. So we're here. I can either lift, but if I do that, I'm going to really bring it with me. I want to be past his head. Next up, Michael Sands versus Roy Dean. Michael is one of the senior black belts over at the Clark Gracie Academy, and Roy Dean is a 4th degree black belt who happens to be my instructor. Michael Sands is a lasso guard player, and that's the influence of Clark Gracie, who is a master at setting up omoplatas and other things from the lasso. Roy is trying to nullify the lasso and take away the leverage. He steps over into kind of a reverse half guard, which is a nice way to deny the lasso from being effective. Of course, Michael's still holding on, which is very annoying when that arm is trapped. Roy steps over as if he's going to mount, but then he knee cuts, and he's just very, very heavy on that knee, trying to extract that arm. Michael is tenacious with that lasso guard, and I think Michael's setting up his signature sweep right here. He has a very nice sweep. I've been caught in that sweep many times where he weaves through, I think with his leg right there, you can see, and now he sweeps him over. That's classic Michael Sands right there. It looks like Michael might be setting up a footlock here in kind of a non-standard sort of outside ashi position. Of course, his leg is vulnerable to attacks on Roy Dean's left side. He's still trying to release that lasso, and I think Roy switches to the foot here. Yeah, he's going to grab a toe press, which is a classic footlock taught in the Roy Harris, Roy Dean lineage. Michael gets a jump on him and goes to knee on belly, but Roy stays on his side and he pummels to nullify the pressure. Michael pivots, comes around to get that arm, and Roy's in a little danger here because there's a potential omoplata setup right there, but Roy is wise to it, so he comes up into closed guard. Roy comes up to pressure Michael in a stack pass. He then pinches his knees together to expose those legs. He can then weave through, but Michael is no slouch, so a battle ensues. It looks like Michael might be trying to get back to his beloved lasso guard, but Roy sees an opening and gets through to knee on belly, and then transitions to north-south. Looks like Roy might be threatening a collar choke here, but Michael's not giving him much exposure there. Roy switches to the Crushing Russian, which is a great way to pressure your opponent and get them onto their side so you can either get a Kimura or an arm lock or some kind of arm exposure there. Right there, Roy's got his figure four, throws his leg over for the armbar and gets it. They start up again. This time Roy is going to start in butterfly guard. He gets a hand in the collar to threaten a choke. But look at Michael's hand positioning right here. He gets knee control and collar control, and that's what's going to let him pivot Roy and transition to knee on belly. Roy gets to his side and creates some instability so that he can come up. Roy goes for an ankle pick and comes up, but Michael stays real connected with his arms and legs. And so let's see who's going to win this exchange. Looks like Roy got passed into side control. Might be worth mentioning, given the title of this video, that Roy Dean is going to be 50 this year. Michael Sands is in his early 50s, and I'm old as dirt, so I think we all qualify as old guys. Roy has Michael's arm pinned there for a possible Kimura attack. Michael turns into it. Roy tries to transition to a triangle, it looks like, but Michael postures to deny it, and the battle continues. Roy loves keeping his hand in the collar to either threaten a choke or as a distraction to set up a sweep. Looks like Michael comes up, Roy comes up, but he gets ankle picked, and Michael gets past Roy's guard, immediately locks him down. And let's see what Michael can do from here. Michael transitions to mount, and it's looking bad for Roy because Michael is a bear when he gets on top. Roy tries to back roll out, but Michael takes an arm. Really nice exchange. It looked like Roy might have tapped there, but I'm not sure if Michael didn't notice. Either way, they're starting in Michael's closed guard. Roy gets collar control, and he starts thinking about a collar choke from guard, but they decide to reset and move themselves back to the middle. There's about a minute left on the clock. You can see it off in the distance. And here we go again. Let's see what these guys can do in 52 seconds. I suspect Michael is going to go back to his lasso guard because he's very good from that position. Yep, sure enough. And he's trying to set up that sweep he likes again, but Roy is staying heavy on the opposite side to deny it. And then he steps over that leg again like he did earlier to nullify that lasso and really flatten Michael out, even though Michael still has the arm. Sometimes maintaining that arm control is enough to keep your opponent from being able to pass your guard. Roy is doing some leg pummeling to get past and trying to flatten Michael out, but Michael sweeps him from there. He gets such immense leverage for those sweeps, even from those kind of non-standard positions. Now he's sitting on Roy's shoulder, controlling his arm, and this is dangerous. He can maybe set up an omoplata there, but the clock ran out. What a good battle. Round number 3, it's Rick Ellis, hey, that's me, versus Roy Dean. We're just going to try to establish some grips here. Now check this out. I'm going to pull guard here, but I pull guard not to get to guard, but to set up a tripod sweep, and then I try to knee cut through. But Roy trapped my foot, and he actually has a beautiful sweep that he does from this position, which I know, and I actually teach that as well. And I'm telling him that. I'm like, no, you're not going to get that sweep on me. So I try to jump to the other side. And of course, he's got his arm around my neck for the tap. We're just having fun. I grab an ankle pick, and Roy doesn't really fight it. He just jumps down. Miles is running the camera right now, and he takes the long way around. I think he's just trying to be creative here. I try to compress Roy's butterfly guard so I can sprawl on one side and pass, but he keeps shifting his hip underneath me, denying that angle. So instead, I'm going to try to come up and create some separation to maybe go around the legs. But Roy has those long limbs, and they are very sticky, and it's hard to get around. So I'm just trying to find some pathway. Watch what I do with Roy's shin right here. I pass it off to my right hand, allowing me to go to the left, but he shin sweeps me, and that's a technique that Roy taught at his last seminar. He switches to kesagatame. I try to invert in order to armbar him, but he doesn't give me any space. He has an arm triangle. I tap early to that because I have a dislocated clavicle that I'm coming back from, and arm triangles compress it, and it really kind of hurts. I go for kind of an X pass, and I tripod on my head in order to pin him. I'm not sure why I'm pausing here, but Roy sits up to hit a guillotine, and he's overhooking my leg with his instep to prevent me from advancing, because what I want to do is pivot and take his back. Right here. Instead, he hips out to deny it, figure fours my arm to try to hit a kimura. I block it, and he then switches his hip to fold me to maybe try a folding pass. And where are you going, Miles? I guess we're saying hi to Dr. Luke over here on top. I try to harpoon sweep Roy. I almost sweep him there, and I think that gives me enough space to kind of rotate my knee in and get up to butterfly guard. Roy loves to pass by going to that reverse knee on belly position and then moving himself into side control. Now he's got my arm, and I'm kind of letting him have it because I like baiting the arm bar from here, because when he steps over there, I'm going to trap his leg, figure four my arms together, and rotate myself, denying the angle. He tries kicking through to maybe set up a triangle choke, but he's not able to do that. And there's really no more armbar at this point, and I'm able to come up. I'll switch to ashigarami, threaten a heel hook, threaten a toe press, but he's holding his foot really rigid, so I let it go. Instead, he comes up and flattens me. I'm just pushing his head. I'm trying to get some frames. I just don't want him to advance completely and put me into a totally disadvantaged position. He takes my arm, and I'm thinking I'm going to bait him again into that arm bar, but he knows what's up, and he taps me. I can fool him once, but I'm not going to be able to fool him twice. And Miles is having fun just cruising around. We start up again. I have Roy in side control, just trying to lock him down and maybe set up a collar choke or expose an arm for an arm lock. But Roy's got my triceps here, and he's not going to let me get to his neck. Roy generates momentum with those long legs in order to get to his knees. I follow. I try to pull him and take his back. He keeps his hips and knees up high to deny it. I throw my leg over. I try to invert to maybe hit an arm lock, but he's heavy, doesn't give me the space to do that. And instead, he switches to kesagatame. And my right arm is in real danger of getting arm locked here. So what I need to do is retract that elbow. That's the only thing I'm thinking right now, is slip the elbow. And in doing so, I might be able to take his back. But Roy knows that. And so he's going to pivot and try to get himself into closed guard. I immediately switch to collar control and maybe set up a collar choke, but he's blocking that. I'll switch to an arm drag, and there's a potential armbar that I can hit from there, or maybe take the back. But Roy has been a black belt during my entire jiu-jitsu journey, so it's pretty rare for me to legitimately catch him in anything. Occasionally it happens, but not very often. Roy goes back to his favorite pressure pass. He pushes my knee across and gets to side control. The clock is winding down, and I'm moving kind of slow. And I think he finishes me with a bread cutter, which is my favorite choke. Kind of poetic that my instructor slays me with my favorite move.